how many agents do you know that write $1 million a year or close to it that work as a full-time fireman? Our real estate gym member, of course, Trevor Bowen does. Peter Diamantidis is another real estate gym member who's just come on, who is doing over 200 sales a year and has been doing that consistently. He's now Ray White St. Mary's, and I'll be coming out and seeing you very soon. And by the way, whilst we're talking about the real estate gym, it is now open for people to become members. So if you've always wanted to be a member and you've always wanted to get the extra good stuff in real estate, including Matt Steinwade's system, which is in the gym, you can go in there and join now. It's open. It's not open all the time. People think they can just go and join the gym whenever they want. That is not the case. The gym is closed most of the time, but we have opened it up last week, and I don't know how long we're going to have it open for, but I think it had something to do with Susan having uploaded a new course called 29 Ways to Get Listings, which I think most people need to do. 29 Ways to Get Listings. Anyway, this real estate Sunday night rant, hello Paul Biller. Paul, I'm going to call you tomorrow. This real estate rant is brought to you today by Agent Box, the best CRM system, Secure Exchange, Before You Bid. In addition to that, it's also brought to you by Engage, which is the best digital pre-listing product that I know. So big shout out to those great products. Yes, I have a relationship with them, but I also think they're very good. And the best agents are using them across Australia. So guys and girls, tonight I'm going to share with you my Sunday night rant, which is 11 lessons that my mother has taught me. Some of those I've actually been a very, very, very good learner, and they have become part of my life. Some of those I'm struggling at, but when I do use the lesson, the rewards are there. These are relevant to life and business. And hey, Paul, good to see you. So let's start and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. So the first thing I'm going to say to you is, and this is not one of the 11 lessons my mum taught me, but I will say this. I clearly remember my mum telling me, unless you love a girl, don't sleep with her. Hey, David, unless you love a girl, don't sleep with her. And hey, listen, like most guys when they're young, one of the things that mattered to me the most was, meeting girls. And I just remember my mum sitting me down in our Greek-style sofa lounge room in Belmore and give me this lecture about when you actually sleep with someone and you don't love them, that it's different for a girl than a guy. I still clearly remember, it would have been in my early teens, and she essentially was saying that it's not the right thing to do because for you might forget about it the next day, but for the person that you've slept with, that can actually affect them for many years. And when I became a father, I began to realize that it's not bad advice. It's not bad advice. And then when you see some of these, footy players and, other people in the limelight that are being done for, various sexual assault / scandals, you begin to realize that it's really important to understand that the actions you take create consequences to other people that are consequences that you might not actually feel. And one of the questions I ask myself every morning, and I listened to this on a podcast a few years ago, and it's a very great question, which is, wake up and ask yourself, What actions did I partake in yesterday that have created suffering? And in fact, what you'll find is this, that prisoners, inmates who are trained to feel empathy on the suffering that their actions have caused begin the path to redemption, begin the path to recovery. When you can actually ask yourself each day, what suffering did my actions cause yesterday? You become a better person. So let's move on to the first lesson my mum taught me growing up. And I was very close to my mum. I was a lot closer to my mum than my father. But the person I was actually closest to of the lot was my brother. It was a very interesting relationship. Me and my brother were very close, and we weren't that close to our parents. But as they say, some of the best gifts in life come badly wrapped. And what has that gift been? The death of George has brought the family together. But when I was being brought up, I was a lot closer to my mum than my dad. And one of the things that my mum taught me is that stay true to yourself. She was quite interesting because Greek mothers are often, pretty old-fashioned with their views. Particularly, if they'd come to Australia at a later age. And, my mum had come when I think she was in her 30s. And she taught me, she was quite liberated as a Greek woman, quite liberated when I look at what some other of my cousins and friends' mums were. And she always said, people don't have to like you, okay? People don't have to like you, and you don't have to care that much. You have to stay true to yourself. And I remember at a very early age, around the age of 4.5, 5, maybe 6, hard to work out how old you were, but there was this boy called Tony, and his parents owned a milk bar at the top of the street on Canterbury Road. And Tony was born disabled. He was obviously born with disabilities, and I don't know exactly what it was, but there was a bus that used to collect him in the morning and take him with other kids that were disabled. And a lot of people used to make fun of them, those kids, because they actually looked different. And all I remember is my mum said to me, you play with Tony. He's a good boy. So Tony used to come to my home, and we used to play during school holidays with Tony. And I clearly remember having other friends of mine make fun of me because I played with Tony, the disabled guy. And that was the first time I remember thinking that, why are people cruel? Because he's a good kid. I've developed a strong bond and friendship with him, yet people used to make fun of him. And one of the things my mum taught me was that don't worry about winning the popularity contest. Stay true to yourself. He likes you and you like him. He's a good friend. Even though in some ways other friends sort of, neglected or even would say nasty things because I used to associate with him. As I got older, I had another friend who came out of the closet late in his HSC, I think in the last 6 months. And again, I went to a school where kids that were gay were called sissies and other names which I'm not going to name on this stream because Facebook will probably get it deleted. But they were rude words that we don't use in 2021 about people based on their sexuality. And again, I had people that would sort of create slurry language towards me because I kept my friendship when he came out of the closet as being gay. Today I realised the advice my mum gave me, which is stay true to yourself, is been good advice, and it is something that I've practiced, and I will, as you know, will know that my personality is about the truth, raw, real, and real is rare in a day that everyone wants you to be cool. The second thing that my mum taught me as I was growing up was, and I know that many parents teach their kids this, but for my mum, it was big. It was something that she repeated like a sermon, and that was, do what is right. Do the right thing. Don't take a shortcut. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Even when it's hard, do the right thing. And that advice is so important, because even in business today, you can be tempted. You can be really tempted to actually do the easy thing, not the right thing. Example, a buyer says to you, if you can get me this property that you've got at this price, I'll give you 20 grand as a backhander, right? I'll give you a secret commission of 20 grand if you can get me to buy it at this price, right? Which is illegal and is immoral. And for many people that are doing it tough financially, that can be extremely tempting, right? And I just learned, if you have this feeling in your stomach that it was wrong, that you just didn't ruminate on it, you didn't give it energy. So there was an instance in year 12 when we were walking through a park called Clempton Park after cricket, and I had a few mates, and I remember some of my mates yelling out to our PE teacher, Mr. Riley is our 4 letters. They screamed that, but Mr. Riley was like about 300 meters away. So I think they just thought they'd get away with it. Being 300 meters away, he wouldn't be able to identify. But that was on a Tuesday afternoon. It's funny how you remember trivial stuff, I suppose, because Tuesday was our sports day. We did sport on Tuesdays afternoons. And on the next day, I was a prefect at that school. And on the next day, I got called in. And so did all the guys I were with. So it was a group of about 6 or 7 of us. I actually remember the guys. I'm not going to mention their names. And what happened? And what happened was the principal asked us, "What did you say?" And everyone denied it. Everyone denied it. And then it was my turn, and I actually said, this is what we said. And we all copped the cane. We all copped the cane. And I still remember the reason I said it was my mum always said, always do the right thing. When you're sitting there and there's this dilemma, do I bullshit here? Do I lie here, right? Do the right thing. Today I realize that we live in a world of total transparency. Everyone knows everything. And that, in fact, has become a superpower, the ability to have your audio match your video. And I think one of the things that gives me, a sense of strong courage and not having much fear is I have no skeletons in my closet. So I can sort of be a bit bullish and take no crap from people because I know they've got no dirt on me. And that's worth something in life. It gives you power. Number 3, the third thing my mum taught me was surround yourself with people you trust. She said to me that it's always going to be tempting to actually hang around with a cool kid and the cool people, the people that sat on the back of the bus, the popular ones, but she said that those people will come and go out of your life very quickly, and that they'll be really strong for 3 months and then they'll mean nothing. And I've learnt that now. As someone that's 53 years of age, I've learnt in my own life, I would rather sit down and break bread, eat fish and chips with people I trust, than sit around a room for 3 hours at a 5-star restaurant trying to have small talk with people that there really is no trust there with. Surround yourself with people you trust. Good advice to anyone that's listening to this. Number four. My mum's extremely religious. And this probably should have been the first one if we were talking about in area of priority. But she always used to say, and still does, stay close to God. Stay close to God. She used to say, you are in this world, but you are not of this world. And that this is a very short time that you're going to be here on this planet. And I have to tell you, I actually thought my mum was going to lose her belief and her faith in God when my brother died. And the reason I say it is, for the 3 months before he died, she had so much certainty and conviction that my brother would recover, even though he was just withering away and getting skinnier by the day. She just used to say, God is going to help us. And I just thought to myself, even I remember when we were, when he was at Bankstown Hospital, I remember thinking to myself, she's just going to sort of just lose it. She's going to realize that God did not save George, and that everything she believed in for her 80 plus years was all wrong, and she's just going to implode because she's going to feel totally ripped off. But it didn't happen. As soon as she died, as soon as George died, she just turned and said, God wanted him. God wanted him more than what we wanted him. And I have to tell you, her faith has essentially meant that something that for many people, losing their child is actually quite devastating. For my mum, don't get me wrong, I mean, it would be better that he had not passed away, but she copes okay. And one of the highlights of her life, she says to me, is that, just before COVID started, that year before, I took my mum to Israel on a business class trip. And of course, Greece, when you're in Europe, Greece and Israel are only 2 hours away. I took her to Israel and we spent 9 days there, just mum and I. And that was like taking her out of deep suffering and giving her meaning. And she's been a different person since then, spending 7 or 8 days in Jerusalem. It was just a great holiday. And I got to tell you, I'm just waiting to go back again. I'm just waiting to go back. Of course, I'm waiting to go back to Europe. And of course, out of everything with COVID, the thing that I've missed the most has just been the ability to go to Europe. I was going to London. I was speaking at a conference there every June, and then I was going to Greece, and then I'd go, back to London, and I would go to Israel, and life was really, really good in the winter in Australia, and it's not going to happen this year, but I'm very certain it's going to happen next year. So stay close to God. Stay close to God. And one of the things she taught me is this: whenever something bad's happening, don't ask God, why is this happening to me? Ask God, how can I cope with this? You tell me, give me the strength to cope with this situation. It's a far better question. Number five, the next lesson my mum taught me growing up in Belmore in the 80s was, you're very smart. She'd brainwash me to believe it. She used to say, remember, you're so smart, Tom. You're so smart. Remember, Tom, you're so smart. And I've got to tell you, this affirmation has actually been integral in my own life. And any success I've had has come from the confidence that it was entrenched in me. And it was actually inked in my mind that I was smart. She goes, you're so smart. And I have to say to you, one of the worst things that you can do as a parent is to tell your kids they're dumb. It stays with them. Tell them they're smart. One of the most famous Einstein quotes was this: if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. Think about that for a moment. Number six life lesson from my mum. By the way, her name's Metaxia. Number 6 life lesson was this: get an education, get an education, get an education. She was obsessed with education. She just had this narrative, this story in her head that the more educated you are, the better your life was going to be. So education was big. And I did not too bad at school. And, you know, I've got a lot of study behind me, a lot of education. I still to this day have my own self-development courses. But the last formal course I did was a master's degree, you know, about a decade ago. And do I use the education out of university that I picked up in my 20s and, you know, my 30s and 40s? Not significantly, but it does allow you the ability to look at things critically. And I just think to myself that a university education is going to make you a living, but self-development is going to make you a fortune. And that's why I'm so obsessed in education, and that's why I'm so obsessed with the path I've taken, which is to be in the world of training and development, because I actually know that education and training is the number one investment that a person can give to themselves. Because if you, like, the biggest asset you have is your earning ability. It's not your car, it's not your share market, it's not your property, right? It's your earning ability. And if you've got the ability to increase your earning ability by education, it's just the highest return of investment. So never ever be a scab about spending money on education. Hey, you want to buy a cheaper pair of jeans? All right. You want to actually have a cheaper holiday? All right. But don't scrimp on education. Number 7. The 7th lesson I learned from my mum was take food to people who need it. And that's metaphorically and literally as well. My mum did it the other day. She came over for Easter. She took the leftover food we have and she went over and gave it to my brother's colleague, who my mum said George would have really liked us taking this Greek Easter food to him. So she left my home and went to his house and gave it to him. She used to say to me that the leftover food that we have, other people are starving. And all I can tell you is that I was taught at a very young age. And I remember her saying, she goes, and by the way, don't do it for them, do it for yourself. You're going to feel good. So I've learned that helping people, helpers high, is something that you don't just do it to try and look like a saint. You get an internal value currency kick by doing it. Try it. You ask a volunteer how much meaning they have doing the contribution work that they do. Hey, Lisa, get an education. Take food to people who need it. Number 8. Even to this day, my mum visits older people in nursing homes. She used to say to me, take care of the elderly. I used to think to myself, she's just saying that so I can look after her when she's older. But I look back now and I think that what she was really saying is that the sunset is as beautiful as the sunrise. Think about what I just said. The sunset is as beautiful as the sunrise. Young and old are both beautiful. And I've actually learned as I've got older that I learn far more from people that are over 50 than under 50. Because they've walked a path that you're walking through. You know that they might not be using the same technology, but what they've done is they've walked the path of setbacks, anxiety, risk-taking, right? Financial moves and plays. So that was the next lesson that she taught me, just understand that take care of the elderly. Number 9, we were brought up, listen, it wasn't, I'm not going to say that I had an upbringing where we didn't have food and clothes. We had that. But we didn't have much more. My parents, there's a lot of Greeks that have been entrepreneurs and have gone into business, or they sort of, I don't know, they worked multiple jobs and they accumulated assets. That's not my story. That's not the family I came from. Money was something that was a very scarce commodity. And it may have been the reason that gave me this innate desire and ambition to actually, really crack it in real estate and be focused on my business career and want to succeed. And I've got to tell you that hunger and ambition are so underrated in success. But she taught me that holidays didn't have to be expensive. Holidays didn't have to be expensive. This thing about having to fly to resorts to have a holiday. I mean, I clearly remember my mum buying me a tent for my school holidays and said, you can go camping. And where was I camping? In the vegetable garden where she had tomatoes and cucumbers, right? That was my holiday, right? At best, I mean, I still remember she said, she went and bought me a badminton set, You used to see them at, Kmart's and Coles, a badminton set with that, that shuttle, or they call it a shuttle or shuffle, $2 badminton set. And she came home and she said, now we've got a tennis court in our house. You can play tennis here, bought cricket stumps, you got your own cricket pitch here. And my holidays were always based around me doing things in the backyard. So she taught me that you can have a lot of fun without having to spend a lot of money. And, I look at my life these days and, you're sitting there thinking, as I've just said to you, I'm dying to go back to Europe. But as I was being brought up, that was something that was just not on my radar. And these days, kids flying off for skiing in Japan, New York Christmases, Byron Bay holidays. I had a good time when I was young. We used to play cricket in the backyard with my brother. Number 10 lesson is my mum taught me to be happy with what I have. She was very good at explaining to me that no matter what you had, it could be worse for other people, so you should be happy with what you have. Today I realize that a lot of the clients that I actually train and coach, the suffering that they have is called the gap. And the gap is basically that instead of them looking at what they've got and where they've come from, they don't spend enough time looking backwards to see where they came from. They spend all their time looking forward. They spend their time thinking, hey, I'm here, but I want to be there. And on the one hand, yes, that's supposed to be goal setting, isn't it? I'm here, but I want to be there. But the dark side of that is that you're always striving but never arriving. Got this discontent where you are now versus where you could be. But my mum said, be happy where you are now. And you can still want more, but be happy with where you are now. And always remember, keep one eye looking back from where you came from. You've done really well to get where you've gone. And I think a lot of successful people don't do that. They don't look at where they started. They're just looking at, hey, I want to be there, I want to be there. So they're just chasing. They make the top 100, then they want to be in the top 50, then they want to be in the top 20, then they want to be number one. Then they find out there's some other guy that owns a $15 million house, and then they think, man, how am I going to get there? I'm on top of this game here. How do I get there? Or I've just got to say to you, there's always going to be someone richer, smarter, better kids, right? Don't play that game. You can't win that game. What's the best game you can play? Be the best you. There's no better you than you. And number 11 that my mum taught me was this. Stuff doesn't matter. Connection does. I'm going to repeat that again. Stuff doesn't matter. Connection does. I remember going to Greece 2 years ago, and my mum just made me take this extra bag, 30-kilo bag that had all these clothes in it. And she said, you're going to take this to a place in Kalamata, which is where we're from. She goes, this is like a mental asylum. And it was. I was shocked to see it. And I went to this mental asylum, and it freaked me out. She goes, you're going to take these clothes. There are people there that have been dumped there. They have no money. You take all these clothes to them. And I just said to my mum, listen, I'll just transfer them some money. And I remember my mum saying to me, listen, it's not the same. Go there yourself. Give it to them. See them with your own eyes. She said, connection matters. Just writing out a check is not as good for you, and it's not as good for them. You don't know who takes a check, but we know they'll wear the clothes. Stuff doesn't matter. Connection does. So I remember taking this big 30-kilogram bag with all the other luggage I had. So, guys and girls, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mums that are watching this. Gang, I'm going to sign off. Big shout out. Quick reminder, Real Estate Gym is open. I'm working. Man, I've got to tell you, COVID lockdowns are a long, long way from my mind now. You know, the amount of work that I'm doing is back to where we were pre-March last year. You know, every week I'm doing at least 10 to 12 events. No, David, she's not watching tonight. Her English isn't great. I'm just shooting so much content, and I'm having so many coaching sessions and auctions, you know. Life's good. And I want to sign off, and I want to let everyone know watching this video, I don't take for granted the attention that you give me every Sunday night for the last 5 years. Your attention is the greatest compliment you can give me, and I'll always respect it. And I'll always give you information and advice I'd give myself and I'd give my family. Because to me, you are like family. Guys and girls, signing off.